Hello and welcome back to the GBC. I'm your host, Nash Colbert. Today we have the pleasure of speaking with Sean, Danger Von Dempsey's here at Dempseys in Watertown, South Dakota. We're happy to have you on.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us first the history and the backstory about Dempseys, how the idea started, and how we got to today.
Well, how much time have we got?
We have all the time in the
All
world.
day. All right, fair enough. So my parents started this back when I was probably 12, 13. Back then, my old man worked for Deli Express. My mother was a school lunch lady down at Garfield. And my old man had kind of gotten into home brewing for a bit. So he'd been using those, Mr. Beer kits. Got one for Christmas, started playing with this, made some really god-awful beer. And he wanted to do more with it. He said he'd been working for Deli Express, wanted to kind of get out of that whole hustle and start his own thing. So he ended up... He kind of had this restaurant idea in his background, like he was going to do something with it, kind of had it in the backdrop, and then he realized on a run in Fargo, North Dakota, that there was a restaurant for sale, the Trader and Trapper. So he kind of decided to take a mortgage out on the house, didn't tell my mother about it, put a bid in for it, won it. So he won the brew system that we have, tables, chairs, basically everything to start a restaurant. So we had to hire a couple semis, bring it down, surprised my mother. She wasn't impressed, so he spent a couple weeks living in a hotel until that all got sorted, but... they made it all work, and back in 1999, in December 21st, he opened the Highland Laddie.
Okay.
That was our original name, was the Highland Laddie. We ran that for about 3 years.
Okay.
After 3 years, we ended up transitioning over from the Highland Laddie to Dempsey's Brewery Pub Restaurant, which is the name we keep today. I've been involved ever since we opened our doors as a busboy. Worked my way through the kitchen.
Yeah.
Did a little bit of bartending, a little bit of serving, but I kind of fell more in love with the kitchen.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I got my start in all of it. Well, that is exactly how I got my start in all of this.
When did you get into the food aspect?
It would have been probably 2003, 2004.
Okay.
So I was still probably 14, 15 at that point.
What has made you so passionate about the food you make and the beers you brew?
Honestly, it's really just what makes me passionate about the food I make and the beers that we brew. Well, let's start with the food. Everybody likes food. I really, really enjoy food. It's like everybody else, but I think it's more of just kind of getting to make things from scratch, getting to go kind of with a blank palette and put random things together and throw it at a wall and see what sticks and see what's good. Mm-hmm. And my sister Toller, one of my older sister, Tara, actually went to culinary school at Mitchell Tech. So when she would come back, she'd have these big recipe books we'd kind of pour over. But really, I kind of just grew up in it. It just kind of always felt like a second nature to me. And it just kind of, as we got more and more in depth with things, it kind of started growing on me.
Yeah. How'd you get into the competing worldwide and going to all these different events?
Yeah, so I mean, that's kind of the big food element I'm all about. Like, my favorite cuisine's Austrian by a mile, but pizzas is a very close second. And that's kind of the big thing when I got really obsessed with pizzas and I got really obsessed with that culture. So I started competing back in 2016. I had gone to a school down in San Francisco called the Sculio International Pizzeria, and I spent some time there. I worked on my craft and came back up here and kind of got crazy about it. And I wanted to go to Las Vegas, and there was a big competition there, so we tried it, and I did pretty well. I got first in my division, 10th overall.
Wow! And
that got me a bit more attention, and then I started kind of seeing what was possible, honestly.
Yeah. What's been your favorite event or accolade that you've?
I would say favorite event was probably the first time I went to Italy, and I went to Parma, which is like the biggest competition ever in 2018. I did absolutely terrible. I bought some buffalo mozzarella from a vending machine because that's a thing, I guess, especially in Parma. And unfortunately, when I got my buffalo mozzarella to the comp site, it had gone south. It was just completely rank. So I had to borrow some to make it work. But it was just the experience of flying over there with the team, getting to kind of see everybody over there do their thing and how Italians judge compared to competitions in America.
Yeah.
I think at that point I'd been to 3 in the States, and that was my first international. Mm-hmm. Now I've been to probably 50 in the States and probably 10 international. But
yeah. As a business owner, how do you find the team? How do you pick those players to make the team?
We've been very, very fortunate. Most of our crew here, for our leadership team, has been here for 5 to 6 years plus. I mean, my main bartender's been here for, I would say 15 years. My front house manager, bartender Adam. My kitchen manager's been here for 20 years.
Wow.
And she's 2 years young or 2 years older than me. So it's a lot of the crew that we've kind of just grew up with us, and we kind of built them up and put them where they need to be.
Yeah. Is there any pieces of advice when it comes to keeping them, or making them fulfilled in their work? Or
Don't be a douchebag. No, I mean, like they like, people like seeing you in the trenches. People like, like if you say something, you need to do it. If there's a busy night, you have to be available to come in. It's just showing that you care and show that you want everyone to succeed. It's not just always about you. It's about the team effort, and it's about what we're building together.
Yeah. What does it mean to be a part of Watertown and kind of a key piece of the culture of Watertown?
Yeah, it's wild, man. So I graduated the class of 03. And I was in Texas for a couple years. I was in Washington for a couple years, but I've been here since I was 4, for the most part. So I kind of grew up here, and I never expected to really stay. I always had that high school mentality. I was going to get out. I was going to go to the big city and do something. And kind of as I've grown and matured, I've kind of realized how much I enjoy the community, how much I enjoy the town. It's just a really great area to be in.
Yeah.
And I feel very honored that we've been part of it for in about 2 months, about 25 years.
Wow.
So it's really cool to be a part of it.
Yeah, and now you're expanding to other markets?
Yeah. So we've got 4 stores currently. This is our number one, the bread and butter Dempsey's Brewery, Pub, and Restaurant. And we had talked about expanding this concept and trying to build it somewhere else, like in Sioux Falls. However, this concept we have 53 employees currently. And it can be a nightmare to run. While my other stores are more pizza-centric and more pizza-focused. So yeah. I would say that it's my hope to open maybe a couple more of my Danger Von Dempsey's concepts.
Yeah.
Like Sioux Falls is some target we've been looking at for a while now.
Okay.
But we've got one in Aberdeen, one in Brookings, one at the airport. So
sure. What are some ways you get involved with the community and keep that relationship well?
Sure. So we partner with the Chamber of Commerce quite a bit. We do our part with the CVB as well. I'm on the board of directors for the Chamber, actually, so we kind of try to be as present as much as possible. Lately, it's been kind of a nightmare because all of a sudden I went from 2 to 3 competitions to like 12.
Wow.
So I'm constantly always on the run, but we just try to be present, be at events, support as much as we can. It's pretty cool. We have our labels on the Watertown Shamrocks helmet. And everyone wants to be a Shamrock sponsor, so we're pretty excited that we get that opportunity.
Yeah.
We just number one thing, be present.
Yeah. What's a piece of advice to an aspiring entrepreneur or an artist? Because what you do is an art in a way. What's a piece of advice you'd give to them? Maybe starting out, you're just thinking about it.
I would say my biggest piece would probably do your research and make sure you have a whole bunch of money behind you. just know what like especially if you're looking to like a food service or a restaurant thing. Just do your research, know your market, stick in your lane, find your niche, and just kind of don't give up. I mean, it's a struggle sometimes, but it takes a while to get there. But once you get there, it's pretty freaking cool.
Yeah. What are your favorite items you offer? I know that's kind of a
pretty broad.
question.
Pretty broad. So obviously, so our number one dish here is called the Wiener Schnitzel and Spätzle. It's actually my grandmother's recipe. I used to make it with her back in Kansas, and she was originally from Austria. She lived over in Feuerbach in Oberösterreich. So 100% the Wiener Schnitzel and Spätzle. Otherwise, I'm obsessed with anything called pizza. So I really, really enjoy like a margarita or a marinara pizza.
Sure.
We haven't done it in a couple of years. We planned on doing it this year. It just kind of fell through, but we do a pretty wonderful Oktoberfest themed menu.
Yeah.
And we'll do things on that like a Schweinbraten or the big one is, how can I not remember one of my favorite dishes? This would be the dish I would have like on death row. You'd have a pizza, or I'd have some fancy German dish that I'll remember 10 minutes after this interview. We make it here only on Oktoberfest menu, and it's absolutely stunning.
Wow. What about on the drink side? What's most popular and your favorite?
Okay, so for beers on our drinks, for the most popular by a mile is our Battle Axe Blonde.
Okay.
I've had that. I mean, that's one of our original 7 brews we've been brewing since 1999.
Wow.
We usually, with every third batch of beer we brew is Battle Axe Blonde.
Okay.
My personal favorite's either the Königweizen, which is a Hefeweizen beer, or it's the Ottersee. I've actually got the Ottersee tat. This is our logo for it, which is pretty cool. And then I got my Königweizen. So,
That's awesome.
Yeah, I would say otherwise, something nice and Irish.
Yeah. I had a question that was just in my mind. Oh yeah, where do you distribute this? Where can people get this?
Right now, we don't do a lot of distribution. It's in our current system. It's a little tough. I just don't. I like. So we have a 10-barrel brewing system right now, and we've got the 4 stores that we distribute to, including ours. So I mean, we generally don't have a lot of excess.
Sure.
So we've been looking at building a new brewery at some point, but it's just been kind of waiting for the right time.
Sure.
So the only thing you can kind of find around this market is our root beer.
Okay.
But that's going to only be found in Watertown in very, very small areas.
Okay. You guys are the second oldest brewery in the state. Do you know the first?
I do. First oldest brewery in the state's Firehouse.
Wow.
Down in Rapid City.
Okay.
We're right behind them in 99.
Where were they?
They were 94.
Wow.
So,
wow.
And there was a Sioux Falls Brewing Company that opened back in like 95, 96 that my father actually went and did some journeyman brewing with. But they're defunct as of like 2003.
Sure. Very unique atmosphere in here. How did you come up with that, and why is it important to you?
Well, I can't take all the credit for it. I think my old man was obsessed with flags, so I became obsessed with flags as a kid. So a lot of them were brought into us. We originally had probably 12 or 13, and we were doing the original Irish colonies.
Yeah.
And it kind of, or state, sorry. And then it kind of turned into, we're going to add another one and another one. So most of them were brought in by friends. I mean, we've got the entire Army Rail back there, and each of those is signed and brought in.
Wow.
My favorite up there is the one next to the Rangers, the Big One Red, or Big One Red. It's the Kansas, Kansas Army, or I want to say it's the Kansas National Guard, but it was where my grandfather was when he was in the war.
Okay. Wow.
So,
one question, kind of off topic, but I wanted to get it before I miss it. Why Watertown?
why are we here?
Just why Watertown? It's an open-ended question. Like for you, why Watertown?
Like why I'm still here.
Yeah.
Or like why we continue to expand here.
Like why do you like the community? Why are you here? Like why?
That's fair. So I think I'm still here in Watertown. I think we decided to expand and grow here in Watertown because, I mean, not only was it the home base, but it's here we have the ability to kind of do everything you want. We can still go and jump on a plane and travel to Chicago or Denver and go visit an international market to go see stuff. But I also, we don't really have to worry about locking your doors at night. You know, your neighbors take care of you. It's a very warm and welcoming community, and it's always been. It's always treated me right, you know, and I kind of felt like as Watertown treated me right, I have to do the same thing back to her. So
Nice.
she takes care of us, and we'll take care of her.
Perfect. How do you maintain this culture, atmosphere, and level of customer service throughout your locations? How do you manage that?
It's a lot of being there. It's a lot of you know. I spend a lot of time between here and Aberdeen and Watertown and the airport. I'm here probably 70% of the time, but it's just having the right people in the right place and just making sure everyone knows what they need to do.
Yeah.
So for us and our leadership team, I mean, we sit down and we talk and we discuss how we're going to not only keep the culture of our shop where we want it to be, but making sure there's no, any negativity or anything that's really kind of happening the culture has to be cut out immediately. We learned that in the first couple of years, how important that is to do.
What about...
That'd have been a great piece of advice. Cut out cancer.
Yeah, well, that was actually my follow-up question. One of the, maybe that's it, the largest lesson you've learned or piece of advice you've gotten from a mentor.
Yeah. Make the hard decision. Every time whenever you have a hard decision, you need to make it. You can't just sit around and wait on it. If you know the right thing to do, you need to take your time and do it. Or you need to not take your time. You need to go ahead and do it, not take your time.
Sure.
Like otherwise it gets worse and festers and manifests. And I mean, that's whether that's, doing something you don't want to do, that's terminating an employee or conflicting somebody who had theft issues. It's all just when things come up, you got to solve them. You got to be decisive. You can't, I suppose I probably can't say you can't pussyfoot around it. Alas.
What's one unique thing about Dempsey's people might not know? Or Sean?
Unique thing about Dempsey's or me? Everyone knows that I'm a crazy cat guy.
Okay.
My fiance's got 2 dogs. I've got 6 cats. If I had my way, I'd have 6 more. But not on the cards quite yet. Cool things about, or unique things. Weird things about us. Top of my head, I can't think of anything too wild. Got a big old building. We're looking to expand into new markets, but that's that's not really, everyone kind of knows that.
And is there any stories that come to mind along the journey that are like, that one needs to be told? Either competition side, restaurant side. That's a thinker.
I'm trying to think of something weird like in a competition. I took my, so my old man is 74, and I took him to a competition in Atlantic City 2 years ago because he wanted to try out competing. But he's not a pizza guy. He has been an iron fist. I make spaghetti and meatballs, and I make the best damn spaghetti and meatballs you'll ever have. Goes to an Italian restaurant, that's what he has, and he judges every Italian restaurant based on how well they make spaghetti. So he's been obsessed with making his own pasta, doing his own sauce. I've got like 50 bags of stuff he made in the last 2 weeks at my house. Like, he's wild. But I took him to this Atlantic City competition for pasta, pizza and pasta show. Made his sauce, really, really excited about it. And he ended up going to the show, competing with it, and he didn't get last.
There you go.
Didn't get first, but he didn't get last.
Fair
really,
enough.
really close to last, but not last. No, he was able to go and at least come and compete with us, so it was a pretty
That's
wild
cool.
trip.
That's cool. Tell us about the process to become a pizziolia.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a fun word to say. So in 2014, I went down to it was a school in California. We actually went to Las Vegas. We'd actually gone to the Pizza Expo the year before, and there was a guy there who was doing this big demonstration, Tony G. And so I was in the audience kind of watching and taking notes, and we said, hey, maybe you should go there this fall and check it out. Maybe you should go get certified. And I said, all right, I'll check it out, because the pizzas we made here prior to 2014 were these cardboard discs that we would make, dock, freeze, and they were awful. They worked, though. So I signed up for it. I ended up flying down to San Francisco. I was there for a week, got to work in Tony G's shop. So I was working at Capo's, I was working at his Napolitina shop. And they have you like just on the line, kind of like making pizzas. In the morning, he's there talking about like breaking down like every single element in the flour, every single element in yeast, why you use water, the importance of why everything kind of meshes and works together. And it really, it was really down and dirty, and it was fun. And so that's what really got me inspired and fired. So when we came back here, I built a room for it. We actually had to reinforce the floor for our 2,500-pound oven.
Wow.
Double-deck Marsal. Had to pester my food reps to figure out what the hell prosciutto or capricola was, because in this market it's just not common, right. And it's really hard to get. So we spent a couple of years just having to kind of specialty find all these ingredients and things until we could get them right. So, it was just kind of one of those things that it kind of gets it's a snowball going into an avalanche. You start getting one thing and it inspires you, and you go from there and say, oh man, I got to find out more, I got to learn more, I got to do more. And with pizza, it's so wonderful because there's so many different avenues. I mean, when I first started, I thought there was New York and that was what you could get, or school lunch pizza.
Right.
And now, I mean, there's so many different styles, so many different representations, so many different things you can do with it that it's just amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I could pretty much spend the next 50 years working on pizza and still not even be close to where I want to be.
Wow. There's levels to the levels.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
What are your top 5 styles of pizza, and what makes each style unique?
Sure. So I'll start with what we do here, which is our New York style. New York's thin, crispy. You're looking at like a 50 to 60% hydration. That's generally what you'll find around the area. Really just crispy, load them up on toppings, and you're generally all right. It'll still sustain and hold the weight. My second favorite style is going to be Napolitina, or a wood fire style. It's that nice leoparding, blistery crust, really high hydration, but that's what you're typically going to find something that has like a margarita, a marinara, one topping, maybe 2 at most.
Okay.
You'll find a lot of that in Italy. That's like what they do up there by a mile. Circle, 10-inch crust. Third for me is probably Detroit. Detroit style is a square cut pizza, or it's a square pizza, 8 by 10 or 11 by 14. White cheddar the outside, sauce in the middle on it, so it almost like the corners taste like a burnt grilled cheese, but that burnt flavor is so mild, it just complements it really well. Motor City Madness kind of thing. Fourth style, I'd say for me, is Chicago Deep. I know it's for tourists, but I don't mind being a tourist because that thing's amazing. These big, giant wedges of pizza it's just too damn much food, but it's so good. Number 5, I'd have to say, is probably going to be California style. California is really similar to New York for the sizing of it, but it's more like a multi-grain dough, a little more in the hydration, probably in that 60-65% mark. But you'll see more like fruits and I shouldn't say fruits, but maybe more more vegetables, more plant forward, more refreshing, fun things.
Sure.
Non-traditional toppings you'll see on more California rolls.
Okay.
Or California doughs.
Sweet.
And there's still, there's Old Forge, which is like your school lunch pizza out of Pennsylvania. There's New Haven style, Chicago thins. There's Brazilian style, which is this weird giant stuffed crust, but it's not like Chicago stuffed crust, and it has a weird cheese on it. But there's, I think every country's got their own style.
Sure.
You know.
Which is another cool thing to traveling all these places.
Oh yeah.
Get to see them and try them.
I say my entire family is really big into traveling. So I've been to 30 countries. Greece was my number 30 that I just got to this year.
Wow.
And so I plan on trying to see as much as possible.
Yeah, cool. Are there any, in the food sector, pizza specifically, anything that you haven't made that you would like to one day?
Yeah, for sure. So we've been playing with like Detroit's and thins and Chicago deep. But the big thing that everyone's kind of going now is Romano style pizza, and it's these big long sheets of pizza that you take, and they're like a super hydrated dough. You're talking something about this long, this wide, and you do them in sections. And they're really unique, but they're a really hard dough to pull off because they have to be done in exactly a certain way. Otherwise, the entire thing falls apart and doesn't rise right. So, that's on my list. But the amount of teaching you have to do, like even if I were to get it figured out, which I'll get at some point, being able to teach someone else that exact same process, exactly that same way is what's always going to be kind of a tough.
Yeah. I guess last thing, any other goals for the future of Dempsey's?
Yeah, I'd say for sure. I'd say on the horizon, we're looking at opening a store in Sioux Falls at some point, hopefully soon. We've got a brewery that came from Fargo Moorhead from 25 years ago. We're looking to upgrade, hopefully build a new one here in the next couple of years would be my goal. So, that's kind of the main focus right now, getting the new brewery up and get it going.
Cool.
So, hopefully we get something going on at some point.
Well, you're for sure maybe the number one or top three of recommended places to eat, no matter who you talk to in town here. So,
well, I appreciate it. We have a wonderful crew.
You're doing it right. What's the one deciding factor that makes the biggest difference in these?
So for me, whenever I grab a pizza and I order pizza 3 times a week. I'll pop up underneath it. I'll look at the bottom of the crust. I'll open it up. I'll look at the cornicione on the crust line to see where it's at. But it's for me, it's all about the crust. You got to have a good crust to build a good pizza. It's got to have a good soul. So I want to see how the bite is. I want to see if there's any gum line on it. I want to see if it's going to be super dense or if it's light and airy, depending on what style I've ordered. So it all just you start there. If you can get the crust right, a lot can be forgiven. Maybe I don't want the sauce too sweet, or maybe I don't like the combination of cheeses. But if the crust is rubber and terrible, it's probably not going to go well.
That's awesome. We could have good.
Crust we trust.
Well, Sean, we want to thank you for coming on. If you guys want to know anything more about them, their information, we'll have that below.
Sure.
And see you next time.
Rock and roll, man. Pleasure, guys.